from Virginia is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have been a recruiter for a for-profit corporation, did that for 15 years, where I had the responsibility of recruiting on college campuses and hiring and making those decisions, and for a company for which I was dependent on finding the absolute best workers. And that was not during a time when we had 10 million open jobs in the country and companies so desperate to find quality workers and fill those positions. And I did this for a company who was vulnerable to the very consequences that we want to bring in greater capacity here today on this House floor. Once again, we've got House Democrats trying to solve a non-existent crisis instead of the many that they have created. You know, massive spending, rising crime, gas prices going through the roof, increased inflation for groceries and other things, surging illegals across the border, firing cops and nurses and first responders because they don't get a vaccine mandate that we're forcing upon them. Instead of dealing with those, this majority is here focused instead on yet another manufactured problem with yet another leftist solution that has the added benefit, from their perspective, of paying off their trial lawyer donors. They miss the point about disparate impact. As an example, a job recruiter goes to a college campus, spends several days recruiting, happens to only have typical younger college-age workers apply, hires some of those workers, and now their trial lawyer friends would sue them because they didn't hire any older workers when no older workers applied because they used a typical standard practice for hiring entry-level workers. That's a real example. They don't understand the difference between impact and treatment. We already have laws prohibiting the practice of disparate treatment on the age discrimination basis. This misnamed piece of legislation does nothing to truly protect older job applicants. Again, older job applicants are already protected by the law, and age discrimination is already illegal. Democrats just want to raise the stakes for their lawyer friends, making it easier to sue and the penalties more severe, perhaps so that they can then donate more to Democrat campaigns. Democrats don't want to acknowledge that sound economic policy, if they could recognize it, is what is good for older Americans. You know, low taxes, less regulation. That benefits older American job applicants just like everybody else. Not more regulation, penalization of employees, and unnecessary victimization. It's already been said, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, these are the facts. Don't let the facts get involved with bad legislation, I know. Don't interfere. But the facts show, and I would like my colleagues across the aisle to explain the problem with the facts, that the number of workers aged 75 and older in the workforce has quadrupled in the last 30 years, rising from 461,000 in 1988 to 1.8 million in 2018. But again, this legislation is about trial lawyers, not older Americans, and this bill would serve as yet another burden on small business owners. In the age of online job postings and digital recruiting, this legislation would make employers vulnerable for any form of recruiting that brings in younger applicants. Online job boards, social media, even the simple act of posting a position online could be challenged under this bill simply because younger applicants tend to apply through those processes and search for jobs through those mechanisms. The unintended, or I suspect the truly intended, consequence of this bill would be countless class action lawsuits against employers who are already struggling under Democrat efforts to cripple our economy. Democrats have spent 2 years closing businesses with lockdowns, firing employees with their vaccine mandates, and paying more people to stay home. Here's another way. Let them benefit from a trial lawyer who sues on their behalf under this bill. Heck, even members of this very body are staying home rather than attending committee hearings or voting in this chamber. And now that America is trying to reopen in spite of them, Democrats want to have their trial lawyer friends sue more business employers and job creators. What we do on this floor has consequences that reach into every corner of this great nation. A sad and dangerous reality under this majority this year. But Democrats are relentless in their determination to pass legislation with a compassionate title, it sounds good, for a manufactured crisis and a policy that hurts small businesses and kills jobs. It's what they do. As I've said before, the Democrat majority has unveiled contempt for employers, businesses, and job creators. And they continue to perpetuate this us against them mindset between employees and employers, or employers and job applicants. They truly believe that employers are hostile to and exploitive of their employers. And they need more regulation, again, when we have 10 million job openings and employers desperate to fill those positions so they can stay open. The socialist America that the left clearly wants is not the America that our constituents and millions of Americans know and love. As the results in Virginia and New Jersey clearly showed last night, bipartisan results, because there are not that many Republicans in Virginia or New Jersey to deliver those results. And I reserve, Mr. Speaker.
The gentleman continues.